Cheers. There you go. Black Metal IPA. Anyway, I'm just going to go quickly over how you can quickly formulate your water amounts for your recipes. Well, for the ROBOBREW, but I'm supposing it's the same for the GRAINFATHER, pretty close too. Since they're about the same size, it should work out the same. Okay, so I'll just quickly go over a few things for the beginners. We'll start with the urn. There's the urn there. Excuse my wonky lines. And the tap on the urn, something like that. What happens is, down here, below the tap, unless you turn the urn up, you'll be left with wort down here, or wort, and your tube. We call that dead space. And on mine, it's about 3.4 litres, or 3.5 litres. It's a bit hard to read that, I'll fix that up. So we're going to lose that out of our batch. Also, when we put the grain in the tube here, that also absorbs water. So that bit won't be ending up in our fermenter either, the bit the grain absorbs. It's called grain absorption, funny enough. And it's about 1 kilogram of grain will absorb about 1 litre of water. Now that's rough, but it's a good starting point. And some grains are slightly different, of course, but that's basically it. What also happens after you've taken the grain out and you're boiling, and this is all obviously full of wort, then you get boil off. Now boil rates, off rates will differ again depending where you live, and a few other different things, altitude. It all affects the boiling and boil off, even the weather maybe. But again, you're going to be looking at about 3.5 litres again. It could be a little bit less, it could be a bit more of boil off. During the boil it evaporates. So that's another amount of water that you'll lose out of your batch. What else? There's a little bit for hop absorption. If you're doing a big IPA, you might lose half a litre, depending. I won't go into the details of that because it's usually too small to sort of really worry about. It's in the 100 mils amounts. So it's that grain absorption, boil off, dead space. That's the most important things we've got to think about. As I've said in my other videos, I'd try to mash in with about 20 litres of water. And I find that's a good starting point for me. It just seems to have a nice loose mash. You can stir it up well, and it doesn't get too thick that you can't drain through it and recirc through it if you want to, especially if you're using a pump. The way we might do this is we might start backwards. We want 20 litres at the end in the fermenter. You can do this for different amounts, but I find this is about a good amount for the ROBOBREW as a batch without having to tip it up at the end where you can, and probably get another 22 litres out, or about 22 litres out or something like that. We want 20 litres at the end. So we're going to lose that 3.5 in the dead space. We're also going to lose that 3.5 in the boil off. So there alone, you've got 27 litres. We're also going to lose the grain absorption. So say we used 5 kilos of grain for a regular brew. There's another 5 litres that we'll lose, not in the batch. And of course that gets us to the 32 litres that we're going to need for our brew. So roughly looking at that, if I mash in with the 20 litres, but I need 32 litres at the end before the boil, that means I'm going to have to sparge with 12 litres to get to that 32 litres. And that amount's been working out for me. You might have to adjust it if you get a little bit of a loss through your chiller, depending on what style of chiller you use or the hoses you use. But if you use the immersion chiller that you get with the kit, that's about it. That's how you work it out. Alright, we'll try it for a 19 litre batch now, just to mix it up a bit. So basically we'll start, we want 19 litres out at the end. We're going to have to add our dead space in. We're going to have to add our boil off. And we're going to have to add our grain absorption, which is about 5 litres. We'll go for 5 kilograms of grain again. If you have 4 kilos of grain, 4 litres. So what does that give us? 7 and 5 is 12, and 19 is 31. 31 litres all up for the whole batch we're going to use. So simply, if we're going to mash in with the 20 litres, then of course, to get to 31, we'll sparge with the 11 litres. And that should get us to our 19 litres in the fermenter. Now all these are going to be slightly different for everyone, different grain absorptions. Maybe your hops, if you're using whole hops, will absorb a lot more, depending if you have them in bags. If you leave them in the system itself, then that'll take up the space down the bottom, so you won't lose so much water. But this is going to get you close, and it's a starting point. You know, write down all your figures, test your dead space to make sure it's the same as the one that dead space is in mine. After a brew or two, write down your amounts of water and how much boil off you get each brew, and all this can be adjusted. But the only things you got to remember really is your boil off, your dead space, and your grain absorption, and how much booze how much wort you want at the end to go into the fermenter. I hope that, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's very simple, and I hope I explained it well enough. For your recipes, you know, that's up to you. I can upload, how can I do it here? I probably can't do it on YouTube. I can leave a link in the description. I'll put it up on Cellar Dwellers for my Beersmith profile I use. It's not perfect. You will have to adjust it for your system. As I said, there's a few little things in there to adjust. The boil off. You'll notice there's dead spaces in places that you probably wouldn't think there should be, like the mash tun, because there's no real dead space in there because we're pulling it out and the whole thing's, you know, it's all in the boil pot. But I've adjusted those to try and get the efficiency right. Beersmith, you can't put in just an efficiency. It works it out on the system. So I had to fiddle a few numbers in there to try and get the efficiency close. But I'll do that. I'll upload it to Cellar Dwellers, my profile for the ROBOBREW, and you can have a look at that and play with it if you like, if you've got Beersmith. And anyway, I hope that's helped somebody. Let me know. Don't hesitate to ask any questions, either down below on Cellar Dwellers, on Facebook, or the website. But anyway, cheers.